Good evening all. My name is Anne Bliss and I'm the Director of Nazareth Catholic Community. I extend a warm welcome to all of you tonight, whether you're here in person and to those of you who are joining us via the live stream. It is a truly exciting time for Nazareth Catholic Community. Nazareth Catholic Community provides more than just an education. We are a community where families are at the heart of everything we do. Families, the wider Nazareth community, and local community services work in collaboration with our committed staff to offer children and young people endless opportunities to realise their inherent capacity to learn, thrive, and serve others and their community. In June, we announced the exciting news of our planned Year 12 Centre across the river in Arthur Lemon Avenue, Underdale. Providing a dedicated contemporary senior year experience for young adults preparing for a successful transition to life beyond school, whether this be university, TAFE or employment, is an example of our commitment to excellence in learning and success for all, in a community of welcome and connection that aspires to foster the potential of every person in every dimension, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. Consultation and collaboration with students, young people, families, and staff, and a significant amount of behind-the-scenes work with our architects from Russell and Yelland, Kennett's Builders, planning and traffic consultants, the Catholic Education Office and the Catholic Archdiocese of Adelaide is bringing this innovative initiative to fruition. Tonight's Community Forum is the next stage in our collaboration with you and will outline developments to date based on family, student and staff feedback. Student leaders and members of the Nazareth and college leadership team will provide reports on the naming of the centre and its Catholic identity, progress on the building project, floor plans and timelines, our teaching and learning philosophy and curriculum offerings, the pastoral care, community connection, leadership opportunities and other logistics, pedestrian management and duty of care, and the integrated community programs and services that will continue to be a part of this offering. The forum will end with questions to the panel, so I'd like to take the time now to thank everyone who's been involved in the planning and the preparation to date for this centre and for our forum tonight. Please know that I'm so very grateful. I have no doubt that you will leave tonight with a sense of excitement and also a sense of pride that together we are creating the next step in Nazareth's journey. So I would now like to invite our Assistant Principal, Religious Identity and Mission, Joe Hicks, and our Religious Education Consultant Mission, Tim Fernandez, to lead us in prayer. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, Anne. My name is Joe Hicks and I am the Assistant Principal Religious Identity and Mission, ARDA 12. So I have the great privilege of working across both the Findon and Flinders Park campus and am really looking forward to having a presence at the new Year 12 Centre. It's a really exciting journey ahead and I'm looking forward to being a part of it. And so I would like to welcome our REC of Mission, Mr. Tim Fernandez, to lead us in prayer.
Good evening. I'd like to call up Lauren and Carly to come and help me with prayer. So prayer tonight will focus on the name of the building that we've come up with. And so Lauren and Carly are going to explain that process, a little bit about the rationale, and then they'll announce the name of the building.
Good evening. Recently, a small group of student leaders were invited to consider and contribute possible names for the Year 12 Centre. Currently, a number of learning spaces and areas at both the Flinders Park and Findon campuses are named after religious icons, locations or associated organisations, enhancing our strong Catholic identity and links to the church. At the Findon campus, the gymnasium is the MacKillop Hall. The administration and surrounding buildings are known as the Dominic Building, and the Early Childhood Centre is affectionately known as the Manger, referring to the birthplace of Jesus. At the Flinders Park campus, the Siena Chapel is named after St Catherine of Siena, and the Trinity Building refers to the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Bagot Street Cafe recognises Catherine Macaulay's House of Mercy, located on Bagot Street in Dublin. And the Science, Art and Construction Building is named after the birthplace of Oscar Romero, El Salvador.
The centre will be named after a saint who brought good news to many, and each message he delivered symbolised a new era, which includes informing Mary that she would conceive a child who would be the Son of God. The opening of this centre will also symbolise a new era in the short but rich history of the Nazareth Catholic community. One of 3 archangels, this saint was the patron saint of messengers. His messages were always listened to, and the name will be a reminder that the voices of our young people are very significant as we prepare them for their transition into the future, that they bring good news, share hope, and instigate change for the world God desires. On behalf of the Nazareth leadership team, it gives me great pleasure to announce that the centre will be named the St Gabriel Centre.
To finish with prayer, please join me in making the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, just as St Gabriel announced good news to the world, may we, your loving children, be inspired to speak your words and spread the good news. Teach us to remain awake to the goodness you have in mind for us, and instill in us a strong sense of love and social justice. May the St Gabriel Centre be a place of spiritual growth, preparing future messengers and leaders for the world God desires. We make this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Jesus of Nazareth, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Joe, Tim, and girls. For those of you that have not met me before, my name's Darren Bailey and I'm the Business Manager of Nazareth Catholic Community. I'm very pleased to present this next section of our forum, being the facility update of the St Gabriel Centre. As many families are already aware, Nazareth is purchasing the property, an existing 2-storey building at 20 Arthur Lemon Avenue in Underdale. This new centre is located about 400 metres south of our Flinders Park campus, just across the river and only a short walk away. On the 8th of September, the City of West Torrens granted planning consent for Nazareth to use the building for secondary education, an important step. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our architects Russell and Yellen, and also those planning consultants in obtaining the council approval. Nazareth will receive the keys next week when the property settlement process is finally completed. In addition to our architects, the appointed builders Kennetts are ready to immediately start the major fit out, with their planning and preparation being undertaken over the last few months. The building works inside and out will occur during October through to January, with completion expected mid to late January, ready for the start of the 2021 school year. And while this time is short, Nazareth is working with a very experienced combination who have delivered many other building projects for Catholic Education SA and previously for Nazareth. And now we have a short video to help you visualise our new St Gabriel Centre. I hope you'll enjoy this.
The St Gabriel Centre will be open and ready for teaching and learning at the beginning of Term 1, 2021. A short 6-minute walk across the river from the Flinders Park campus. It will be a dedicated centre for our Year 12s. Nazareth's continued growth has enabled our community to reimagine learning opportunities for our senior students. The patron saint of messages, Gabriel, brought good news to many, and each message he delivered symbolised a new era. So, the name St Gabriel Centre will symbolise a new era for Nazareth Catholic community.
The dedicated centre will include visual art spaces, facilities for sciences, a student hub for collaboration, as well as self-directed study, general learning spaces, kitchenettes and outdoor areas, a cafe, student services and office and administration spaces. The centre will accommodate a car park, pick-up and drop-off zone, cycling racks and is a short walk to the Hartley Road bus stops. The St Gabriel Centre will provide further timetabling flexibility across years 7 to 12 and will be structured to ensure that student and staff movement between the Flinders Park campus and the St Gabriel Centre is minimised.
Year 12 students are integral members and role models within our community. Together, we are committed to ensuring that Nazareth's culture of community and connection will continue to flourish within this new learning experience.
As students, we will continue to be known deeply and be supported to flourish by those surrounding us in our community. The centre will provide an experience that will build upon the current independence and flexibility senior students already have, as we begin our transition to tertiary and vocational learning and the world of work as young adults. Our Nazareth community are committed to ongoing collaboration with students, families, staff, graduates and our broader community to realise our shared aspirations as we continue to deliver excellence in teaching and learning and through the delivery of contemporary and innovative educational practices across Nazareth.
I'd just like to offer my sincere thanks to our architects and also to our communications and marketing team for producing that piece. So I hope you found the video as exciting as I did, and I know we have so far. Given the video displayed the floor plans quite quickly, we're able to show you these again, and I'm just going to briefly orientate you around those spaces. So on the ground floor here, and I'll work around clockwise from the top. So starting at the top centre is going to be the street entry and the student services. Moving around to the right of the screen, the staff offices and staff room. Lower down is the general learning areas and breakout spaces. The toilets are centrally located in the middle. There's an ICT help desk, the counsellor's office, and then back up the left-hand side, more general learning areas, breakout, and most importantly into the student hub area, which is the left-hand side, providing the connection to the outdoor areas where the pickup zone will also be. And to finish off, the top almost centre there, the most important, the cafe. So the first floor plan will show, as we flip to the next slide, the visual arts section on the right-hand side of the screen there, and also that breakout space. The toilets are again central. The lower left-hand sides are the 2 science labs, with more general learning areas and also further breakout spaces. So thank you for your time, and I'll now pass over to Miss Rebecca Donnan, Deputy Principal Curriculum, for the next section of the presentation.
Thank you, Darren, and good evening, everybody. I think it is important to note for all of our Year 12 students who may have got slightly excited by seeing that video, despite the fact the characters in that video were dressed in casual clothes, you will still be dressed immaculately every day in your uniform to attend this fabulous new St Gabriel Centre. Obviously, there are some timetable considerations that need to be put into place in order to facilitate this wonderful new place of learning for our Year 12 students. We do know that there are some subjects that will be continued to be offered here at Flinders Park. So subjects such as dance, drama, music, material products, or tech as we know it, will continue to be located here at the Flinders Park campus because those facilities and specialist spaces are located here at Flinders Park. But the majority of subjects for our Year 12 students will be offered in the new St Gabriel Centre. You can see the large list of subjects there. What this means is that for most of our students, they will be at the St Gabriel Centre for nearly all of their day, or for nearly all of their day. We've made some minor tweaks to our daily structure, obviously to also accommodate the movement of students between the St Gabriel Centre and the Flinders Park campus. You'll notice we've decided that the school day for Year 12 students will begin at Lesson 1 at 9:05 a.m. in the morning. Our Year 12 students won't attend the daily morning MG sessions as they have done in the past, and our intention is that morning notices and prayer will continue to be available for students via sector, as well as showing on the screens throughout the St Gabriel Centre every day. Of course, our Year 12 students will join with the other students in Year 7 to 11 for Monday's MG lessons that occur during the course of the day. They'll all be here at the Flinders Park campus, visiting with their mentor groups, participating in house activities and college events. MG lessons on Friday will occur for our Year 12 students at the St Gabriel Centre, where they'll have some dedicated wellbeing program for themselves, talking about study tips, important events that are coming up during the course of the year that are just relating to Year 12 students. You'll also notice there's the provision of some movement times in our timetable now between each of our double lessons. And lots of you will know that we work in double lessons here at Nazareth. This will provide time for students and teachers to move between the Flinders Park campus and the St Gabriel Centre. Obviously, you can see at recess time it's been extended by 10 minutes to allow for that travel for students who do need to move between the two campuses, the St Gabriel Centre and the Flinders Park campus, as well as between lessons 4 and 5, and again at lunchtime for students who may need to move between. These movement breaks will also be mirrored for Year 7 to 11 students, where students can use that time for a bit of a stretch and a brain break and a chance to go and get a drink of water before they start their next class as well. That's it for me. I'll hand over to Jeff Sahadsky now.
Thanks, Rebecca, and for many of you know me as the head of campus for Flinders Park. My section is more just around some logistics with movement between the Flinders Park campus and the St Gabriel Centre. And the first of those is being around student movement and transportation. And for the first part, as you would have seen in the video, it is about a 5 to 6 minute walk both ways between the site. In this particular slide that you can see, there are bus stop 13, which is the red line. So for students that carry on public transport, buses 100, 101, 286, 287 and bus 288 stop at bus 13 so that students can get off in the morning and also catch that bus of an evening as well. You'll see that the green and the blue path show two designated travel routes that students can actually cater going from the St Gabriel Centre to Flinders Park and vice versa for that. At the St Gabriel Centre there is on-site car parking, limited though for students, but also there is public car parking around the site as well. The other part through this that we would imagine that a number of our staff who've also got to move would walk between the two sites, but like anything we'll also cater for particular weather There will be things like umbrellas and the like that we would obviously look through. But as we mentioned earlier, that it is just a short travel across the river between both particular sites. One sort of interesting information that we will obviously provide in the end of term 4 is for our year 11s, is to provide them with a transition into some logistics in week 7 when they're doing their 11 into 12 classes. And on the first day back in 2021, part of our transition into year 12 would obviously be at the St Gabriel Centre when it is open. Some other parts is that we do have a NAS bus that will go between 2 sites, so in particular for students that might be on crutches or in those particular means that they can't physically walk, we will cater for that accordingly. And it's probably also remiss if I didn't mention too, just as we have at Flinders Park, there'll be a number of bike racks that will be at the St Gabriel Centre. So fairly well catered for student movement and transportation backwards and forwards. If we now go to, and Rebecca mentioned around sector attendance and accountability, very much we are using the same process that we currently do with our year 12. So our year 12s have flex, and what flex stands for is that in the morning or an afternoon where they don't have scheduled lessons, students in a flex morning, they come at recess time and they tag in. That's our general terminology in sector. And when they leave of an afternoon, so at lunchtime when they don't have any classes, they tag out. So very much for how families have live streaming sector on their sector notification page on their mobile device or laptop, you'll be able to see when your son or your daughter is tagging in and out of an afternoon or of a morning, or in this case during the day if they've got to move between lessons, as Rebecca has outlined it previously. For this we will have a number of iPads that will do that, very similar to what the students experience currently now at student services or at the library or for their music lessons when they're signing, or as this tagging in or tagging out in for those particular spaces. We would expect them to do the same when they're tagging out from Flinders Park, to then go across the river to the St Gabriel Centre, and then they will tag in through the Gabriel Centre. Now that will happen either through student services, or for when they have their lesson, their teacher will tag them in as they normally do to take their attendance. So it is live, and we make the students accountable for that particular component. Another part for the next is the actual support that the Year 12 students will have at the St Gabriel Centre. So it is exactly the same support that the students currently receive, with probably a few added elements. I know that we've already mentioned around adult learning, so you will see that they'll have a strong connection with their senior house leader, as they currently do as Year 11s. The Year 12 house leaders will obviously support them here at Flinders Park. They will also be across at the St Gabriel Centre. And you can see a new role, which is the second point, is our Year 12 coordinator, which is predominantly based and designated at the St Gabriel Centre and provides that pastoral support, that strong leadership that is at the St Gabriel Centre. And for the most part, along with the Assistant Principal of Student Development and any senior leadership member of Flinders Park and of the Nazareth leadership team, the Year 12 coordinator will gather the Year 12s together on a regular basis, especially where Miss Donnan was talking around Fridays, lesson 1 and 2, where they might be engaging in the NAS Wellbeing Program. So that gives that strong rite of passage of person around any questions if their senior house coordinator is not available or their MG teacher in that particular space. You can also see that the SACE coordinator, so in our current context, Virginia Grantham, would be available to fulfil her obligation from SACE and SACE questions and patterns and Year 12 work. We obviously have provision for Vet and Careers Coordinator, which is really important around pathways beyond obviously Year 12 and those sort of planning. Student Services, just as we have here at the Flinders Park, will be available with a sick room and For parents, anytime that you need to speak with your son or your daughter or need to get a message, Student Services runs in the same component that it does here at the Flinders Park site. We'll have a student counsellor on site, and as I've already indicated for the next two, that there will be presence from Flinders Park leadership team and the Nazareth community that I know that Juliana and Morella will speak to shortly. And that probably is a good segue with Morella's role as the Graduate Liaison Officer, who provides that transition to life for our young people around adult learning, uni, TAFE and the world of work. So, as you can see, many supports available for our young people on that particular site. As we've also worked through, there's been extensive work this year under the guidance of our Assistant Principal, Mr. Christian Martin, on developing a Nazareth Wellbeing Program across R-12. And that is, as we pointed out, will have many rites of passage around study skills, safe partying, looking at uni, SATAC, all of those sorts of programs that we'll get guest speakers from external agencies that will be coming in to speak to the Year 12s around supporting them in their Year 12 pathway, but also around that transition to life going forward. At the moment, we've also just recently gone through the process of student leadership, and so one of the things that is really significant is around Monday's MG, that our current Year 11s, who are our Year 12 leaders, will still be connected with their mentor groups here on Monday and provide that senior leadership for the 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s and 11s. And so that'll be pretty significant as the many events that we will be hosting and holding throughout the year will involve the whole student cohort from 7 to 12, so they will be part of that particular process. Which probably provides me to my last slide. I know that we've had some questions around what recreational facilities that we'll have at the St Gabriel Centre. One of those is planned as some basketball courts. I know that the students that I've spoken to are fairly keen around some table tennis. We'll look at maybe having an exercise bike and a few other bits and pieces that the students can access there as well. And it would probably be fairly remiss that we just mention around academic support that I know that Rebecca will speak to for the next slide.
As many of you would be aware, we currently run an academic support program here at the Flinders Park campus. So in the Veritas Centre after school on Mondays through to Thursdays until 5 p.m. That program will continue here at the Flinders Park campus in the Veritas Centre, and our Year 12 students are very welcome to come to that each afternoon. However, the St Gabriel Centre will also remain open until 5 p.m. on Mondays through to Thursdays. So if our Year 12 students are looking for a quiet space for study or to finish their homework before they go home, then they'll be very welcome to stay inside the St Gabriel Centre, and they will be supervised by a teacher until 5 p.m. What we are trying to foster here is a very much an adult learning model. We are putting extra responsibility onto our Year 12 students in terms of tagging in and tagging out, in terms of being on time for their classes, whether they're here at the Flinders Park campus or at the St Gabriel Centre. And we do want that in their preparation and their readiness for life beyond Year 12. We do want to make sure that they're ready for the sorts of things that they'll see at university or at TAFE or in the world of work, which we know looks very different now than what it did even just a few months ago. And lots of the processes and plans that we have in place have been put in place in order to facilitate those sorts of things. And now it's over to the Nazareth community.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good evening, my name is Juliana Martino and I'm the Community Development Leader. This is your family's community and we will continue to create our community together. We will continue to connect with families in a whole-of-life journey by providing a range of integrated services and opportunities to support the spiritual, social, emotional and intellectual growth and well-being of our family members. The Community Services team will continue in conjunction with the counsellors to provide pastoral and family support and lifelong opportunities for education and development. This will include our pastoral and family support officers and our community services officers and our graduate liaison officer, who I'll introduce in a moment. Knowing our families deeply, the St Gabriel Centre will continue to provide opportunities of continuity and transition, promoting a broad range of post-school pathways, and for an opportunity for our Year 12s to thrive as leaders and learners in school and life. We will continue to provide points of connection through our cafe, and we've made sure to keep the cafe as a central meeting point with high functionality and continue to provide a healthy selection of food and amazing coffee. I would now like to introduce Mirella Romeo, who will talk about the graduate connection.
Hi everyone, my name is Mirella Romeo and I'm the Graduate Liaison Officer here at the secondary campus. I'm also a past graduate from 2016 cohort, so I can honestly say that I've been in the shoes of the graduates. I've been there, done that. I know what it's like to leave school and I know how scary it is. And I've also been through some of the struggles that a lot of Year 12 students will find they come into contact with once they leave the school environment. So really my job and the job of any graduate liaison in the future is just to ensure that no graduate feels alone in their experience. So we just want to make sure that the transition to life is really smooth, and also that we've given all students the necessary skills required to be able to transition smoothly and feel like they're comfortable in their life after school. From the past 3 years' worth of follow-up surveys, which we do annually with our graduates, I've found consistently that the data has indicated that the drastic change between school life and post-schooling is really scary and a really hard experience. So something the St Gabriel Centre will support is that transitional environment where students can have that work, school and study life, and also the lifestyle and independence of being accountable for their actions and also their studies. So that's something really important that the St Gabriel Centre will support students with, and also as the graduate liaison I can support students in doing that as well. So some of the opportunities that the Gabriel Centre provides, in particular in connection with the cafe, is a space where students and graduates can communicate, can have those really authentic conversations, and also just to chat. You know, sometimes Year 12 students just need someone to talk to, someone to, pick someone's brain that's been there. It might be talking about life after school, what careers they want to get into, maybe just some struggles they're having with Year 12. And the St Gabriel Centre will really be able to provide those opportunities between graduates and Year 12 students. It's also a space for tutoring, mentoring and graduate support networks to continue, which I really look forward to being involved with next year. Thank you.
That's the end of our formal presentation tonight, and what we're hoping you've heard is some of the questions and queries you've posed since we announced this new initiative embedded in our presentation tonight. But now is a time for questions to us as a panel. We've got a couple of roving mics I can see, so please ask away and we will hopefully be able to answer those tonight. We may take some questions on notice because this is continuing to develop and come to fruition. So let's get started.
Perhaps, Annie, sorry, that was very loud. If I can start, we've had a couple of people who weren't able to attend tonight and have emailed us in some questions, so we might ask those first and that might prompt some others as we go along. So one is about the student movement between the two sites, and is it possible to permanently station the Year 12s at the St Gabriel Centre rather than having them move? Is that something in our plans for the future?
I'll happily take that question. Obviously, as I mentioned before, and we do have some specialist facilities here that mean we cannot replicate those also at the St Gabriel Centre. So there are a small number of subjects which will occur here at Flinders Park, but the majority of classes for our Year 12 students will occur at the St Gabriel Centre. So there'll be a large number of students who will spend most of their day, if not all of their day, at the St Gabriel Centre. But there will be a small number of students who'll be moving backwards and forwards between the two sites, between the Flinders Park campus and the St Gabriel Centre. And obviously, as Jeff mentioned, we will continue to mark attendance every lesson of 8 lessons of the day. So teachers will be checking on students being where they're supposed to be on time. You as parents can also be checking that students are where they are supposed to be on time. Hopefully that covers that, Victoria. Thank you.
And you might be the next person to answer this question, so perhaps just stay there, Rebecca. From the same person, just wondering about the different items that students have, so textbooks, musical instruments, laptops, bags, things like that, in terms of transitioning between the St Gabriel Centre and the Flinders Park campus. Have we thought about those logistics?
Certainly. We have already had some discussions around that, and obviously the provision of lockers and of spaces within the St Gabriel Centre as well here as Flinders Park campus for things like musical instruments. We know some of our students have very large musical instruments that sometimes need to be stored during the course of the day. We're already looking at locker spaces also at the St Gabriel Centre so that students can put their bag, put their laptop, whatever it might be, they can lock it away if they don't need it during class time, or it's there nice and safe and sound. It's also going to help them to develop some of those skills of being responsible for having the right items with them wherever they need to be. So whether it's here at Flinders Park or at the St Gabriel Centre, the sort of responsibility they might need to have when they're an adult and they leave here and go off to a university or TAFE or the world of work.
If I can just jump on the back of that as well. One of the things with the musical items that normally, as you would know, that rehearsals practice after school. So one of the things that we'd expect from our senior students, our Year 12s, is that if they drive a car, they can store their musical instruments here in the morning, park their car here, they'd walk over to the St Gabriel, have their lessons, and they would come back at the end of the day and engage in that particular process as well. The other part around the lockers, we find that students carry maybe 2 things, a laptop and a textbook. So that's pretty much a light part. So they will have a locker here as well that they can actually provision and leave a majority of their materials here, especially if they're finishing here, so that their main storage device would be here and they'll just transition backwards and forwards. I hope that answers the question, Victoria.
I noticed, for example, PE was offered at the Gabriel Centre. Is there any provision to share the Underdale Oval? Or what provisions are there to share, if any?
Not that's been discussed at this stage, but obviously being right next door to the Oval would be awesome if we could negotiate that into the future, but not at this stage. Yeah.
Probably the other part is PE has actually changed in the nature of a subject, so a lot of the pracs are in a gymnasium if it's volleyball, badminton, those sort of registered pracs, which this facility would still be used in that component.
When students are transitioning between the two campuses, you say they are tagging in and tagging out.
Yep.
If a student doesn't tag in, what are the process for following up?
Yeah, so we've got, so there will be, there's a flag, a certain time frame that a flag happens. So if we've finished a lesson and they should have tagged in by a certain time, then a flag will happen to the house coordinator and student services. So you can generate a list. So then we would know. It'd be no different if we were just on this site and they haven't signed into another lesson, yet the teacher who had them previously can see that they were marked in, yet they haven't made it. That would flag something to student services and our current house coordinators. Does that make sense?
Can I add on to that question, Jeff? We had another email question about students who may not be in Year 12,
Yep.
who may be younger and who will also be doing
Yep,
lessons
absolutely.
across? So that I'm presuming that's the same.
Yeah, so the other part around that is that what's great about our mentor program is the fact that it's called Mentor, that we buddy. So the same thing would happen, like if we look at, if I'm in Dominic A, because Dominic's the best house, then those particular students, we buddy them up with a 12 who buddies up with a year 7. The same thing as a year 11 who's in a senior math class, we would have a look at a student that's got to transport across from here at the same time. We would buddy them up, and maybe with 1 or 2 students if they're walking across. Obviously cars are a completely different situation, but we would do everything in our power to move them across and support them. Part of the transition in week 7 for our year 11s, when they're meeting their year 12 teachers for next year, these are some of those logistical questions that we will talk through as well. Yeah. And the other point, as Rebecca said, we do have a NAS bus that is going between sites as well, that the students can be on and get back.
Just on the visual there, it looked like the centre was quite open to the community. What's the access for others who aren't part of the teaching faculty or students?
Certainly the only entry point to the centre is staffed by student services and other staff, as it would be for any entry point to the campuses across the community. So it's, it would be mainly students coming in and graduates, and other members of the community would have to be going through the normal processes of entry, recording, etc. Yeah.
I've actually walked over from the school and had a look at the site, and the perimeter of the building and the car park area backs onto the Underdale Oval of the high school, and I want to know, is there going to be a fence? And also there's I think a street or something from the housing on the other side as well. Is that going to be fenced off as well? And is the only entry point going to be from the back of the school as well as Holbrooks Road, like the entry into the housing area?
Really good question, Sophie. So there will be a fence perimeter. As you currently see for the Flinders Park site, will be exactly for the St Gabriel building as well. So on the western side, which is the oval, that'll have a fence. On the southern side, that'll have a fence. There'll obviously, I believe there'll be a gate for our car park. That'll obviously, just as we operate here at the Flinders Park, so it'll be secure. The other part is obviously around camera provisions that will be on the building around that, which is exactly the same on our current sites. So safety is our number one concern as well.
And another point on that, if students are travelling between the two campuses, I would imagine that there'd be an individual student just walking on their own at some point, or do you imagine that they'll be walking in groups?
Well, we'd hope that they'd walk in groups, but we would look at... Yeah. The other part, we would expect that they've got 2 travel routes. We would hope that they would walk, with a partner. We can't force that. The other part, we would know by the students that are choosing particular subjects who have got to move, we've got an understanding of the data of people going backwards and forwards based on what students are choosing as subjects. As Rebecca pointed out, the subjects they're coming back for might be PE for here in the gym, it might be for design and tech if they're doing woodwork, it might be for music, or if they're in doing food studies or food and hospitality, sorry.
And sorry, I just want to keep talking, but as far as any activities go, any recreational activities, will there be a basketball ring? Will there be anything outside the actual building for them to do something other than coming back here during their break time?
That's what I mentioned with the recreational facility. So there will be basketball provision, table tennis, that will be providing provision over there. We do want to give some students a bit of choice around that, so we'll find out what sort of utilise they would like to have over there. I think I said, well, let's get an exercise bike and things like that over there.
Sorry, just a couple of questions. I think it's fair to say most parents would prefer to minimise the amount of travel in between the campuses. I just wanted to clarify the mentor group thing. You said that they won't be doing the morning session, but they would still be doing the lessons when they're scheduled. Is that correct? And if that's the case, have we considered, given the world we live in and all the changes that have happened this year, to further minimise that? And you may or may not have considered this. Perhaps the Year 12s can actually dial in via Teams for that session. I know it changes things a bit, but I actually think it would be a good way for people to continue, because work is changing in that manner as well, and I think that would actually minimise the travelling in between campuses.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a good point. Given obviously in COVID, the use of online Microsoft Teams was pretty effective. So we really want families to be aware that Monday we want our Year 12s to be connected, part of their house and their mentor group on Mondays, and be involved in the activities. There's a strong connection that our 12s have with 11s and with their mentor group teacher and their particular house. So that will occur on the Mondays. Friday is more specific, obviously just to Year 12, tailored their rites of passage from adulthood, being the class of 2021. But we have thought around some Microsoft Teams. We've thought around how do our Year 5, how do our 12s engage with our Year 5s and 6s, and maybe engage in a primary class down at Findon. So they're all things that we have thought about, even with having a video conference with a teacher that's here to say walking between two, so they can schedule that. So your point is very valid, and we are thinking of that. Yeah.
Just still talking about the transport between the two buildings and campuses, I'm just thinking about like the actual residential population and the pathways. Are there clear pathways? Has there been consultation with the residential area? And how do they feel about the idea that students are going to be walking back and forth?
Do you want to do that?
Thank you. I can report that was all part of our preliminary work that was undertaken in getting council approval. So there was work done with our traffic consultants, there's work done with the planners, and that's all part of the assessment that's undertaken by the panel of the council to make those decisions. Because of the development that was proposed, it was a public notification. So all residents in the area, it was open to all public to provide comment and raise concerns, and there was only a handful of residents that raised the concern, and often it was about those movements that might happen, or as well as traffic and parking. So those components were all factored in and entered into the satisfaction of the council. So we believe we've made those allowances as part of that process. The two different pathways that are required, the width of footpaths in terms of what capacity they have to carry students is all part of the work that's done for that satisfaction. So again, the timetable factor reduces those movements as well, and that's all being part of that assessment and again to council satisfaction.
What's happening with instrumental music lessons?
It's a very good question, Imogen, so thank you for that. We would envision that they would still be here. That's something that we would work with the music department who sought the instrumental lessons, but also it comes back to the availability of the instrumental teacher on the days they were here. So we'll try and sequence that. Now, if that doesn't work, that you don't have a lesson here, that might be a movement down here, but we might mean that you might have it early in the morning, so that you could be here in the MG time, do the instrumental lesson, and then move to the St Gabriel Centre, or vice versa. So it'll be a logistical, depending on the availability of the instrumental teacher. Great question, though.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
Oh, it's very loud. Just inquiring about the students that are walking back and forth. If a child has some kind of health issue, like has a fit or something, would there be a teachers supervising or walking with them at all?
Well, can I put this, and be no different to currently students if they're walking to school or from school at the end of the day. There may be some teachers that might move between at a particular time, but we would suggest if it'd be like a normal citizen on the street, if they have something like that, then we would follow normal protocols that would go forward. I suppose it's a what-if scenario that would happen in that particular case. So if it did happen and a student was there, we'd hope they'd raise the alarm and we would follow process.
Sorry, I have another music question. My daughter does a clarinet ensemble, which is a mix of kids in year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12, and that's during lunch times. So how does she get from, if music is down this end at the Flinders Park campus, how will she connect with that group if she's, transporting from St Gabriel Centre to here?
It's a really good question, Mrs. Ascott. I think the question would be, we would just have a look at who are the members of that particular rehearsal, and then obviously Jess, Joyce, Wes and the music department would have a look at when they would schedule those to suit the best needs of those students. I think that's probably the best way of looking at timetables.
And one other question you said about buses. How many buses are there? And what locations will they be picking up and dropping off students from the 2 campuses?
Well, we are working through that at the moment. There are 2 buses, so it could be one going one way and one going the other way.
Do you have times at all on those? Is it just before school, after school times, or you don't know?
It's during the day.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just another one from our email, and it's quite a different one to the tone of questions that we've had so far, but we've had someone raise the question about what will our environmental impact be, and have we considered zero waste, have we considered our impact, solar, all of those types of things. I'm not sure who would be the best to answer that question.
Across both campuses, we've been working on our waste management processes, so in terms of our waste bins, compost bins, etc. There's always opportunity to continue to develop waste minimisation processes. So we'd be more than welcome to continue to work with our community, with our young people, to continue to build those practices in the St Gabriel Centre, just as we are trying to build and boost those practices across the whole community. But open to any ideas and suggestions as well.
Hi, as a number of our Year 12 students will be driving next year, which is scary to think, will the expectation be that if most of your classes on a particular day are at the St Gabriel Centre, that they park there and then walk throughout the day between, or are they able to drive throughout the day from one centre to the next?
It's a really good question. I think, as I said at the start, so where the student will finish for the day, that's where we'd like them to park at the start. So if they're finishing at Flinders Park, park here at Flinders Park, and then movement between, because then their car is finishing. So we prefer if they just move that way. Okay. No. The other part that we would look at, it would be a permit situation for students if they've got a park on the St Gabriel, which we would have had a system in here at Flinders Park, but obviously at the moment students park in the surrounding streets as they're entitled to, and it's the same as they're entitled to at the St Gabriel Centre in the surrounding areas.
It stated on the timetable that school finish at 3:15. Is this the case?
A very important question, Raiden. Is school going to finish earlier each day? At the moment, it is the proposed structure, so we're seeking some feedback from a number of different stakeholders. At this stage, the proposal is that it may finish early, and we also have a second proposal, some feedback that's come back about whether we may still continue to finish at 3:25. So don't pin your hopes yet on having an extra early 10 minutes. But we're looking at what is going to be the best model to suit our students, to suit our teachers, and obviously to really encourage this adult learning environment that we're talking about.
Another question is, with the back gate, is that going to be open all the time, or will that be open purely for movement times?
Students have got the great questions. So we're looking for it's a really good question. So one, it'll be an automated gate. So there'll be certain times that, remember, it's under video surveillance. So a bit like a button press, it opens for the students and then it closes. How's that?
Raiden, did you mean the Flinders Park campus back gate, or did you mean the St Gabriel Centre gate? Either or.
There's no gate at the front as such for you to get through at the St Gabriel, but you're very right at the southern gate here, because it needs to be secured, so it'll be opened at that time that you need to leave and get in.
Firstly, I want to say I think the presentation was amazing. It looks like a fantastic space, and I think our kids are very lucky to have that. My only concern is there's a lot of talk about leadership and community, but if they're over there, I don't know that they're going to be, their leadership role is going to be so prominent this year if they're only spending, let's say, one lesson at the school or one day at the school.
It's a really good question. We're really conscious of that. So given that currently most of the activities for student leadership happen on Mondays in 5 and 6. And the reason for that is set up before 5 and 6 and pack up. So the student leaders currently now are heavily involved in that particular component. The other part is there's flexibility in the timetable for our student year 12s who might have flex on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. They might come in and meet their house coordinator on setting up house activities or touching base with 7s to 11s in house areas across the Monday to Thursday, because Friday they're obviously at the St Gabriel Centre. The other part is the students who may have an afternoon free, let's say on a Wednesday afternoon, they can choose to go and flex and go home as normal, or they can sign into the Flinders Park and work in the Veritas Centre, or once again meet with other student leaders at lunchtime on the Flinders Park. So there's other opportunities and that the students will connect through that way and provide student leadership. And the 12s will be at all of the particular key events that we currently celebrate this year and previous year across the organisation.
So with the school perhaps closing at 3:15 instead of 3:25 and then allowing for those movement times in between during the day, so that means the lesson times are going to be shortened. Is that the case, and by how much will they be shortened?
A very good question. Currently, a double lesson here at the Flinders Park campus is equivalent to 80 minutes. In order to facilitate those movement times, we've trimmed a double lesson to 75 minutes. But the other point that we've considered too is we obviously have movement time that happens here anyway. So at the end of MG and before lesson 1, students still have to travel from the top of the Salvador building out to a transportable or to the... So there's movement that happens anyway, and that cuts into our normal lesson time. What we've done now is actually deliberately timetabled that movement time so that there is actually 75 minutes of dedicated teaching and learning time instead.
So on Mondays, we have obvious moving time between our lessons and MG, but because on Fridays, MG's lesson 1 and 2, the Year 12s start at Flinders Park campus, and because it's at 9:05, is the whole school, like both the centre and here, everyone's starting at 9:05?
Okay, so complexities around the timetable. So students in years 7 to 12 will still begin their day, and in fact their day is going to begin at 8:40 a.m. is the proposal. Students in years 7 to 11 will have mentor group every morning, just like they currently do now, for 15 minutes. Obviously they then have a 10-minute movement time because our staff might need to move across from having had MG here in the morning to teach a lesson at the St Gabriel Centre. So those students have then got a chance to go to their locker, get their books, have a drink of water, whatever it is they might need, and then be at their class ready to start lesson 1. For our Year 12s though, of course, we're going to say to you, you won't be coming to those morning MG sessions, and instead you're going to start your day at 9:05 with the beginning of lesson 1. So students in Year 7 to 11 start at 8:40, students in Year 12 will start at 9:05. On Friday mornings, currently in Lesson 1 and 2, we have mentor group. You're right, we have a double lesson where lots of things do occur. So the switch that will be made next year is that during those Lessons 1 and 2 on a Friday, that's year level specific wellbeing time. So for our Year 12s, they will be at the St Gabriel Centre having Year 12 specific wellbeing program. So whether it's about safe partying, whether it's about study tips, whether it's about key events that are coming up, SATAC presentations, whatever it might be, but that will be deliberately in the St Gabriel Centre just for Year 12 students.
Hi, I'm just wondering what's going to happen to the Year 12 building that was built just a couple of years ago, so the Year 12 Centre. Who's going to be using that? Anyone?
That's a very good question. At this particular stage, we're looking probably from a needs point of view. So they'll be used as classrooms. It may be the Year 7s will be relocated there. It might be our Year 11s are looking through there. So we are looking at, as you know, that students drive the timetable. So we'll look at where our classes are and what's our best needs for that going forward.
Okay, I've just got one more question. I understand that this new Gabriel Centre is going to the Year 12s. Yeah, I know, it's raining. I was just wondering, was it ever considered for the Year 7s? Because for me, I think it's, as Tanya said as well, the Year 12 leadership role, the mentorship, and that's been like a tradition throughout Nazareth from the beginning. I'm afraid it's going to get lost. So I was just wondering, was it ever considered for the Year 7s? And if not, why not?
Okay, we'll do it. Ladies.
I suppose we can approach that in a lot of ways. Our Year 7 cohort is going to be quite large next year. You will remember we have increased our enrolments at Year 7 for the next 2 years. They're a younger cohort a lot of them joining our community for the first time, so, needing more space, more play space, more runaround space. And it's just and in terms of age appropriateness, in terms of the issues you've raised around movement and so forth, we feel that the centre itself is best designed for and meeting the developmental needs of capable young adults who are finishing their schooling and entering into the world of work and uni and TAFE. Leadership is expressed in many ways, shapes and forms, and our Year 12s will continue to have the leadership opportunities and rise to the leadership opportunities that their seniority invites them to rise to. So we believe quite strongly that that won't be lost, and in fact it'll be enhanced, I think. And part of this, we understand change is always unknown until we're in the experience, and we have every faith that the experience of our Year 12s in this new initiative is going to be incredibly life-giving and fulfilling. But we appreciate your angst in this space, and we can just invite you to join us in having that faith that it's going to be a really wonderful experience.
I guess it's quite obvious that assemblies would still be held here for the whole of the school, and obviously the Year 12s will be over at the St Gabriel Centre. I didn't notice on the floor plan, and it might be just because it was so small, if there's change rooms for PE facilities, and with the uniform requirements for formal assemblies and so on, if they're stationed mainly over at St Gabriel, are there facilities for them to change? And again, the locker situation and so on as well.
So the first question, just around the uniform change rooms, would be they more than likely will be changing here for those particular students that are catered in for that. The other part around that is that for our assemblies, as our students would know, though it is a 12:05 start time, we normally don't get going till about 12:25. So there'll be some time that the students from year 12 probably don't need to cater to going from a classroom, wait for their time to go and get a chair and then to file in. The chair will be provided for them, which will give them their time to move, get changed and be a part of those events. And as I said, with the locker situation for certain students who have got particularly subjects here, there will be provision for it here. There will be provisions over there as well, but I'm suggesting that if I'm stationed here and I'm going over for research project and maths, I'm probably only going to take three things: pencils, pads, my laptop, and that, or just in a smaller bag, and then the bag just goes in because they take those, or they just take them straight into the classroom. So we are looking at even maybe around satchels. This is also around that transition to university TAFE, where they don't carry big bags, they carry a smaller component of it.
Can I just ask, is there a maximum number capacity of people that you can have in that new building? And is that going to cater for the large intake of year 7s in 5 years' time?
So as part of the council assessment process, we had to advise on what we believe to be the capacity of the building, and that's all for the planning reasons we talked about, from traffic movements, car parking provisions, the spaces provided. So there's a cap maximum of 400 students at any one point in time permitted in the building. So that's, as many of you may or may not know, that's certainly well above our current cohort of year 12, so there's certainly capacity for that. There is a set number of staff that are able to be there at a point in time. I believe the number's 30, but that's also about staff that are actually stationed there versus staff that come and go as well. So a lot of that is to, I guess, appropriately have a capacity at the building and honour the arrangements in place for traffic, parking, and how the building operates.
Thank you. And my last question, is there going to be an opening next year? Because I feel like this building, I didn't see it, haven't seen it. It opened and there was no hoo-ha about it.
Absolutely.
So it'd be lovely if there'd be an opening.
There'll be many ways to celebrate this next phase of our journey, but there will definitely be an opening, and our young people will have a huge say in how that plays out as well. Yeah, we'll see you there.
Because of the larger inclusion of year 7s, in the event that the building is delayed, do the year 12s fit in this campus?
Great question, Zara. Answer, yes. So the answer is yes, but the likelihood of that is unlikely, and that you'll be starting over at the St Gabriel Centre.
What about the interaction with younger, say, siblings or friends at lunchtime that have made a connection? And if they're in the year 12s in the St Gabriel Centre and the younger students or, siblings need that connection with that student, what do they do then?
It's a really good question, but the premise is around adult learning and adult experiences. So we expect for our year 12s at lunch, if they were going to come back and do that, they're more than welcome, because they're tagging in, tagging out, and they'll tag back to where they were. So we see no problem with that as well. Because they might need to come back at lunchtime to be a part of the chess group, the soup group. There is other opportunities that are existing here at Flinders Park that they want to be a part of. It might be the Social and Justice and Ministry group that are working with Mr Hicks and Mr Fernandez. So that's fine, same process.
So then that means they'll be walking across by themselves, or will they have an escort?
Well, it depends on how many particular numbers that we would look through. So we would hope that they would, as adults, we can't force them to walk with somebody. We would find that they would just tag out and then tag in, because it is their community.
And as you said, because it's public space, that bridge, you've got pedestrians and bikes. How would that affect transport, you know, because some of those people with the push bikes, they do speed on that track sometimes.
Miss Ascot, I would say it's the exact same what happens before school and after school. It's the same principle that would happen in normal operational hours, that we walk on the left, walk on the right. We're just observant of our surroundings. And these are all sort of messages that we will give to our young people in those transition weeks.
It's been wonderful to be able to have this level of conversation about this project. So thank you so much for coming prepared for your questions. Hopefully you know, the questions will continue. You can continue to process these. This is not the end of the collaboration and the conversation. What we know is that we are designing and planning an experience for competent and capable young adults who are about to launch out into the world beyond school. And they will rise to both the responsibilities and the opportunities and the challenges that this new initiative offers them. They are a part of this community now and then and into the future. And everything that we are doing, as we said at the beginning and through our answers and our presentation, is honouring the fact that our Year 12s are integral members of our community, contributing to our community as leaders, as learners, and as people of faith and people of goodwill and justice. So that will continue and will flourish in this with this opportunity. The proof will be in the pudding, won't it? Thank you so much for the time you've spent in coming along to here. We are really looking forward to hearing your feedback from what you've seen and heard tonight, particularly the fly-through. It just gave such a really, well, it did for me, so I'm hoping it does for you, this wonderful opportunity to see it, what it's going to look like. It's all well and good to think about things in rhetoric and in words, to actually see that. That's what it's going to be looking like, and that's what our young people will be experiencing, and our staff who will be working in that centre will be experiencing. It's wonderful. Okay, so without any further ado, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank again yourselves, but for every member of staff who's here tonight and has been a part of this, the preparation. I'm going to take this opportunity too to just introduce you to someone who's going to be our acting principal next term, and that's Andrew Baker, who's here tonight listening to our story. So please stand, Andrew, and let us give him a wild Nazareth welcome, please. All right. Take care, everyone. Stay dry, stay warm. Fingers crossed for a Naz day that doesn't get rained out. Thank you so much, everybody.